So I will try to give the lecture on a very practical aspect and how you really approach to the Korean business without too much frustrating issues. First of all, when you try to incorporate in Korea, have a business in Korea, somebody wants to know, do I really have to register? Or can I do something without registering? And then when you try to register, are there series of kind of business type that I can choose? Or is it only one or two? In Korea, actually, the partnership entity law is made from year 2009, but there isn't much partnership company. I would say less than even 50. So when you do register a company, it would be either corporation or individual company. And that is first. To register a company and not register a company. And then when you register a company, then mainly one will be a corporation and the other will be a sole proprietorship. So can I do the business not registering? Maybe you can do the freelancer work, not registering. Being a freelancer does not need to have a company registration. But you are acting not as an employee relationship. There are a lot of freelancers who's doing like voice-over artist work or editing work. And this person also, if you have freelancer income, you still need to file personal income tax return, just as sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship also need to file personal income tax return. Declare their own income once a year. But if you do not register a company, you cannot issue tax invoice, which is in my other handout. Other handout, the 세금 계산서. If you do not register, you cannot issue tax invoice. But that doesn't mean the transaction did not exist. The transaction still exists, but the transaction material is changed. If you have registered your company, you can issue tax invoice. Not registered company, you cannot issue tax invoice. So I know one voiceover artist who did his work as freelancer, not registering, but later he needs to do it with government sector, and then they say that we need to receive tax invoice. So he had to open his own business. So I'm telling you that the essence is the same thing, but sometimes the tax invoice is required. If you have a corporation, you need to pay corporate income tax.
Can I just in Korean corporate is foreign and SB is paying?
Yeah. What is the huge difference with corporation and sole proprietorship? How can I get salary from there? Anyway, you're doing the business for profit. You need to get the money in the pocket as you do the business. For the sole proprietorship, actually the owner cannot declare his salary. Because the sole proprietorship is treated same as the owner. The company is same as the person. So it's like moving left pocket to right pocket, and if it's tax deductible, it's funny. Because you are already taxed by the personal income tax. If you pay yourself and deduct as expense, that's playing around with taxes. But then how can I get the money from the company? Actually, the owner or the president can withdraw from the company bank account. In other words, you can inject the money easily owning a sole proprietorship. You can withdraw the money easily as sole proprietorship. How about a corporation? Corporation means totally separate entity with the shareholder, representative director, director, auditor. So corporation itself is an independent entity, not which is totally different with sole proprietorship. So the person representative's salary can be deductible as company expense. But let's make it simple. There is one person making an incorporation. Christy, I want to pay myself. What is the best way? Anyway, company sales is what I get. Company is maybe the only expenses the salary to me. Please give me a tax plan. What is the best to minimize my tax? Anyway, I have the burden for corporate income tax. If I pay to myself, I need to pay the salary income tax. That's my burden. Then you can ask me. As I give consulting with the corporate income tax. Right? So the corporate income tax, as the one person company, you might feel like I pay the corporate income tax and salary income tax at the same time. So some people might feel to reach to my pocket from the company as a corporation, you pay two taxes. Some people can't accept it. I thought it was a very fresh approach, and yeah, it's true. It's true.
Can you say that one more time? I didn't quite understand what you mean by that.
Okay. Is there any person who can explain better than me? Yeah, because sometimes in a student's perspective, it might be easier to explain. Okay, and then we...
No, about how to pay yourself in the corporation.
I think you deduct it as like an expense, just like any other employee. You're considered an employee of the corporation, even though you own it. You're like the CEO, right? So you would deduct it as like an expense, and then you're a person who has a salary, and every person who has a salary pays income tax. And then the company also pays tax because the company earns so much money. So in a sense, it's kind of like paying two.
So almost no point. You better go for the for the option.
It's better to be a sole proprietor, is what you're saying
If you're
then?
by yourself, yeah.
It's not that simple. I wish it was simple. Although very close, very close. If the tax rate is same, your calculation would be very optimized.
If you're making the same amount of money, it's better to be a sole proprietor in smaller stages.
Yeah, in a
Depends how much
smaller
you make
stage.
though.
Yeah, depending on how much you make. Right.
So if I draw it, sole proprietorship and the company is same. Company is same. But for a corporation, sole corporation, the company and the president is different. Representative director is only representative director. There is other owner of the company who's shareholder. Of course, it can be the same person, but the corporation have different liability.
Is it difficult to change from a sole to a corporate?
People think, can I transfer from sole proprietorship to corporation? But actually that is not a transfer, it's closing sole proprietorship and incorporating corporation.
Is that simple process? Is there like, does it take a long time? The process of closing down the...
Yeah. Since you have maybe office premises and the businesses will continue, it will be easier than starting from the bottom, from the scratch.
I'm sorry, can I ask you one more question?
Mhm.
So, but the corporate taxes are so much lower than the personal taxes. So to me, it seems like why wouldn't you start from a corporate perspective, and also like you were just saying, you get limited liability, right? So that you'd be more protected.
Yeah, everything seems to be good at that stance.
Yes.
More investment.
Corporate income tax rate have two level, while sole proprietorship have much more level of the being taxed. And that's in my handout on the last page. For corporate income tax rate, actually people only talk about the income tax, not the surtax. Income tax go to the federal government and surtax go to the district government. So corporate income tax is three bracket, 10%, 20%, or 22%. Corporation are 10%, 20%, or 22%, while individual company, sole proprietorship is 6% to 38%. So if you are in the lowest bracket, of course, 6% is ideal. Okay?
Sorry, I came a little bit late. Is that after you pay your salary, they calculate the 12 million?
Oh, for the sole proprietorship, you cannot pay to yourself. You can pay to the employee, not the owner.
Okay.
So if you are in the lower bracket, being sole proprietorship seems to be tax beneficial, while if you have high tax bracket, being corporations is more favorable. And the tax base is not your sales figure. The tax base is net income after tax reconciliation. So we name it tax base. It is similar to the net income, but slight tax reconciliation should be done. So if you expect your net income to be below 12 million, going to sole proprietorship is better. But if you think you will reach higher income, net income level being a corporation is better, in, only if you approach in a tax-wise.
And the same question that I had before for the corporate company then. Say I make 100 million, but I have 10 employees and I pay them each 20 million. So it's zero? My total income then is zero after my expenses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you pay no taxes. In either way. But in corporation, as I mentioned, you can deduct president's salary, and sole proprietorship cannot deduct president's salary. But the public image being a corporation is much better. People think you have some size.
Is there some price difference to start up each company?
Yeah, there is price difference. Being a sole proprietorship, they think you are less stable compared to corporation. Corporation means I am registered to the court. So to register corporation, corporation have court registration plus business registration, while sole proprietorship only have business registration. corporation have corporate registration, you need to do the name check also. Whether it is have the same name already registered or not. And being a corporation, your capital is registered to the court. So there is some taxes registering your capital. A lot of things are covered in my material, so you don't need to write down every details, but I'm giving you the big idea, so you will be interested in that.
What is the minimum capital requirement to start a corporation?
Starting a corporation itself, the capital can be low, like 1 million.
So there is no only
But
this minimum.
for some kind of business, there is a requirement, like tourism business, 300 million. But not so many businesses have the minimum amount, unless you want to go for foreign direct investment company. And I think you have the session for foreign direct investment. Yeah, sometime after my class. And if you want to go for foreign direct investment, the minimum amount is 100 million for a corporation and for individual company. Even for an individual company, you need to invest to be a foreign direct investment company. The pros and cons, I think it will be explained in FDI session. So, as just Mr. Chip briefly talked before me, that like F visa holder who can freely do the business, they don't need to go for FDI, right? In such case, you can even start a company with much lower capital than 100 million. So I gave you a brief explanation about corporation and sole proprietorship. Do you have any question in between two of them?
Okay. If you were just saying in a nutshell, just like very simply, what like I know there's so many different rules that you would say, but at what point would you say you should go corporate, and what point should you say you should go personal? If you were just say like, I know there's so many different variables, but just if you were to just say just kind of a general rule, what would you say?
If your company needs to deal a lot with your counterpartner, like Korean partner, if you need to show your businesses a lot, then as I mentioned, the public image is also what you cannot neglect as you do businesses in Korea. People think about the public image a lot. So being a corporation will be a better idea even from the beginning. But otherwise, sole proprietorship for like first 3 or 4 years, and then maybe you can change your mind to be a corporation.
And when it comes to the sole proprietor company, if you do something really wrong accidentally, you cause a huge damage, you go to court, do you have your assets, your personal assets, will also be used to pay any compensation that you...
Sole proprietorship, unlimited liability.
Unlimited.
That's too bad.
So even any personal asset that they have not related to the company can be repossessed and sold to
Especially
pay.
for taxes, you can be personally liable. But other commercial laws, it's different, case by case. For the taxes, you are personally liable.
Yeah, taxes.
Even for the taxes for corporate, you are liable up to your shares. So in many other lawsuits, I think it will be similar, but you can discuss that with the legal consultant.
Excuse me. Is there any restriction on the share structure or the shareholdings for foreigners?
The share structure, that's the concept only existing in corporation. Actually, in sole proprietorship, there is no concept of shares. For corporation, a foreigner can own 100% of most of the Korean business, but some limits on the foreigner owning business in like military businesses or a very few businesses are limited. And for a corporation, if the loan from the overseas shareholders are 3 times higher than the capital, there's different tax implication. They say that you registered your company as 100 million. If the loan is over 300 million from the overseas shareholder, the interest paid to the shareholders is treated as dividend. That's the thin capitalization rule, but maybe I'm going too much. Nation rule. The interest expense paid from the company is treated as dividend paid out of the company. So it's not deductible as company expense, and the receiving party needs to declare the dividend income. So foreigner can own the 99% and the local owns 1%. There is no limitation of the share structure.
Can I ask, what is the tax rate for the dividends?
Tax rate for the dividend. First, the tax treaty rules. Second, if it's resident paying the dividend 14% plus 1.5%, so 15.4%. Okay. One of the reason I also recommend about sole proprietorship in the beginning stage is because you check the tax rates, but also bookkeeping method is different. Sole proprietorship much flexible, much easier. Sole proprietorship you can think as taking single entry, while corporation taking as a double entry. What is in the debit, what is in the credit should be kept strictly. The bookkeeping liability is also different. And I told you that sole proprietorship, the owner can withdraw from the company account and inject the fund to the company account when the cash flow is bad. But the corporation, as I draw, the company is not myself. The company is having a totally separate legal entity. So for a corporation, every line in the bank transaction needs to be explained, needs to be reported to the tax office. Let's say that there was small interest income from Korea Exchange Bank, Shinhan Bank to my corporate account. I need to declare it as income. But sole proprietorship, not reporting details of my company account does not subject to too much penalty. The reason I say not too much penalty is because if your size grows, the liability grows also. So if the sole proprietorship's volume grows, then it has similar bookkeeping liability like corporation.
Do limited liability or maybe limited partnership structures have the same kind of accounting requirements for disclosing their
Yes.
accounts?
Yes. Like, do you know the concept of S corporation in US? S corporation in US, it's like in between corporation and individual company. The partnership itself is not taxed, it's a pass-through entity, and the partners are liable. Yes, there are such regulations in Korea since 2009, but not many companies uses it. I don't know the reason why. Because they are so familiar with these two kinds, I think that's the reason. Okay. So corporation, sole proprietorship. If I have relationship with the overseas entity, let's say that I want to open Apple Korea or Google Korea, then that means that's a related entity with the overseas entity, overseas mother company or parent company. Then I can only make a corporation as a branch office or subsidiary. But about that, I will cover as I look over the material. So sole proprietorship, not the foreign entity cannot be an holder of sole proprietorship. an individual human being can be the owner of a sole proprietorship. Any more question on sole proprietorship or corporation? The beautiful part of corporation is limited liability. My client had the fire accident with the corporation and got limited liability. And also his insurance company covered. But the landlord was unhappy of the insurance coverage, so there was a suit about it. But since it's a corporation, he's liable up to his investment. But if the case was same as sole proprietorship, I don't exactly know because I'm not a lawyer. I think it would have been more tough. Okay. If I have an employee, people ask about what is the tax rate, what is the insurance rate, so I'll give you the salary slip of mine. If I have an employee that I pay 2.5 million, at the end of the day, how much should I wire to him or to her? These are the deductibles I need to deduct. I need to deduct salary income tax, and then 10% surtax on top of the salary income tax, and pension, health insurance, and long-term care. Long-term care is long-term care is in addition with health insurance and unemployment insurance. So I'm giving you just an idea. If I have an employee that I pay 2.5 million, I need to deduct 258 and pay him 2,241,000. Who pays the salary income tax? Only employee or also the company? Anybody have idea? The salary income tax is 100% borne by the employee, but pension and other insurances also the companies to contribute. So actually the company's expense is not only 2.5 million, 2.5 million plus company's contribution of employees' insurance. So people say if I hire one person, it's like 108% is my burden. 8% consists of the company's contribution of insurances. And insurance rates are going higher year by year.
So, what about long-term care? It's only the pension and health insurance?
Oh, long-term care is part of health insurance.
Okay.
Long-term care is 6.55% of health insurance, so it's always going together, health insurance and long-term care. Oh,
Is health insurance like popular in Korea with the company?
yeah. If you are,
It's mandatory. It's mandatory. Is it?
But in case if I have not full-time employee but part-time employee, should I also pay this health and pension insurance and all this?
if you become a regular worker,
But if I hire somebody not full-time but like 4 hours per day,
there is limitation. But my knowledge might be a little bit old, but if you work over 60 hours per month, the company needs to support your unemployment insurance and disaster insurance. Working over 80 hours, then all insurances need to be covered. But I think that regarding the time per month have been changed. And so I didn't calculate because I remember the tax rates for every single salaries. There are some helpful websites that I wrote down. If you go to nationaltaxservice.go.kr, as you can see, and also the insurances for insure.or.kr is how you can calculate your taxes and insurances.
Excuse me. But the burden of paying the employees taxes or giving them their refund, that's totally on the companies. The company is responsible for that, right?
The company is acting as a withholding agent. Company is withholding agent. So the company is liable for deducting, and company is liable is to pay the withheld taxes and insurances. Company is also liable to help the year-end salary income tax settlement.
The company has to do that,
Yeah.
right?
The company has to do that. Not an individual need to do that individually. Like US, you
Yeah.
file your own 1040. In Korea, if you have an employer, the company needs to handle everything for you.
Okay. But otherwise, the company will get fined, correct?
Because I heard so many bad stories. They are of course liable to withhold the taxes and pay to the government. And I think they are doing that.
But is there, we can go onto this website, this NTS, and figure out how much that we should get back for taxes. If I was employed, the employees can figure that out, correct?
Okay. So that table shows how much the employee should deduct you on a monthly basis. Monthly basis during the year. Throughout the year, when the company deduct my taxes, they only consider my two things from me. They do not consider how much Christy spent in hospital. They're not interested in how much cash card I used, how much donation I made. The company is only considering two things, my salary and number of my dependents. So during the year for 12 months, they deduct my taxes only based on two information. That's why if you use the website, they only say how many family do you have? What's your monthly salary? See? They're only interested in my monthly salary amount and number of dependents. Interesting thing is, in the number of dependents, I need to include myself. So there's at least one dependent. So again, during the year, they only consider two things. At the year end, beginning of next year, they ask me to provide a lot of receipts, yearly receipts, like donation, insurance, home mortgage, medical care, a bunch of expenses. And even my dependent's credit card or my dependent's education fee. So after the year end is closed, they do the reconciliation. Two person having the same number of dependents, but at the year end, the yearly receipt level is different. One person can get more taxed and one person can get refund. But again, it's all liability of the company.
When did you get that income back?
On February's paycheck.
Oh, so I should have. Okay.
On February of the following year's paycheck.
Because I'm sorry, I know this is not. I just quit the company I was working for. That's why I was trying to calculate in my head. Do they owe me money or not?
You get it back directly from the tax office.
But the tax office sends it to
Yeah.
me?
You can get it back from the tax office.
Okay. If my company did not give me the money?
Yeah.
Okay.
What goods or services or purchases or expenses are deductible?
Oh, it's deductible in many other ways.
But can you give me an example, like, for example, any types of related services or things, commodities, whatever, might be deductible?
It's different whether you are a business owner or salary income earner or only owning a sole proprietorship.
Let's go with the corporation.
For a corporation, a lot of expenses are deductible except personal expense. The essence of deductible expenses is business related.
What about rent? Is that like is rent considered deductible as a sole proprietor if you're working out of your home?
Well, regarding those questions, let's cover it in the second session and then write it down in the board. Okay. Expenses is always an issue. Again, for the salary income tax return, I made examples like medical care or mortgage insurance. For the salary income tax reconciliation, very, very personal expenses are deductible. But if I own a company, basically business-related expenses are deductible. So if we briefly cover about the pension and insurances. So pension, you can say mostly you're likely to pay if you are between 18 to 60 and have income in Korea. But there is ceiling, there is cap. So if your salary level is over 4 million, anyway, the pension amount stays same. And the good part of it is just like tax treaty, there is also pension treaty. If your home country does not ask Koreans to pay pension in your home country, you can be exempt. And also for some countries, when you are leaving Korea, you can get the total amount refund.
How do you prove that you're leaving?
Oh, they ask you a lot of documents to prove that. Your dispatchment letter, even your flight ticket too. And also your foreign account. They do not want to give it to your Korean account. And the health insurance, basically, if you have salary income, yes, you need to engage in health insurance, and very less exception compared to pension. As pension have pension treaty, but health insurance does not have health insurance treaty. So you're more likely to pay health insurance, and we can say almost there's no cap. So as your salary grows, the health insurance enormously grows. Same as tax. Tax also goes up higher. But there are some exceptions for health insurance also. If you're already covered worldwidely from your home country insurance, that even though I travel in Korea and other area, I am already medical health insurance is covered. If you have the insurance certificate, you can be exempt from health insurance. That happens for a few expenses. So I only got 2 questions, not too many. So the deductible expense, whether the sole proprietorship can get the expense deductible.
Do you need more questions? Because I can put some more up. I just want to get reading, that's all.
Okay, after I cover,
Okay,
I'll get
I'll write my
more of
questions.
your questions. If your company is registered in your house and your company name is shown in the office contract, the lease agreement. Yeah, lease agreement. Tenant, ABC company, the landlord, blah, blah, blah. And then, if this is your office premise, then you can get this expense deductible in your financial statement.
So it doesn't have to be something like office hotel and stuff. It doesn't have to be that.
But for the tax office to release the company registration in your house, they prefer office tel. But I saw many cases, even not an office till the tax office releases the business registration. If you are in some like internet business or online business, they do allow you, or some consulting business.
Just to rehash what you said, the lease agreement needs to say the company name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or person's name, bracket, company name. But not many landlords like to make contact with the company. Landlord, lords, the business.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why the landlord might not want to do it?
Because if they rent this to a person, they will never deduct it. In other words, their rental income will not be revealed to the tax office.
They're the businessmen too. They make their own business way too.
Oh, they don't want to do it. Because my leases ran out, and my landlord is just like, oh, don't worry about the lease agreement. I trust him. I'm trying to get him to do this, but he won't give me this lease agreement.
That's why.
Okay, that makes sense now. Now I understand why.
And taxes on rental income is high. The reason is that actually tax office think it's a passive income. You get income without working hard. So on rental income, there aren't much thing to write off. You don't need raw material to do the rental business. You don't need to hire a janitor to run a rental business. So very limited expenses matching to the rental income. So that's why not many landlords are reluctant to do this.
If you buy a property, can you write off like your mortgage payments or something like that?
If you buy it under the company name?
Yeah.
As
your investment, say for example your foreign direct investment.
Very limited case. Very limited case. And also need to prove why your business needs to own that place.
You as a person owning a sole proprietorship, you're living in that place. That's your own place.
Yeah. Then unless you pay the mortgage, there's nothing to write off. Right? If I own it with my own fund.
No, actually, you invested, for example, from a foreign direct investment. I invest 100 million. I buy a house for myself here, which I work for my house. As the internet company, for example.
Then, if the 100 million is from the bank, you have mortgage and interest, right? That expenses can be written off. But if you have it, and first of all, if you invested 100 million would need to be withdrawn for the business purpose. And buying a house cannot be a business purpose.
But it's my office. What if I set up as office? So I'm buying that property as office. So I have office there. I'll buy office there. Is that okay?
So let's say that you bought 50 million office till, right?
For example,
and
50
then
million.
there will be depreciation related to it, right? Then those expenses can be deductible.
Isn't the difference if the person also lives at the place? Like if you use the office till for living and also for the office, I heard that then you could have deducted because
Yes,
they
that's
think it's a
why
personal
many
expense
people,
actually.
Yeah, go for office till instead of pure residence place.
But then if you live there, if it's also your registered address for your home and also registered address for the business, you still can deduct it then?
It can deduct it. But of course, in the basic tax rule says related to business expenses should be only deducted. If I pay 1 million, how can I define between personal 20%, business 80%? Same as vehicle. If I want to deduct my fuel expenses, how can I explain that this portion is my private portion and this portion is business portion? So there are some gray area.
You have to keep a log, right?
Huh?
You have to keep a log,
Log.
like a journal for the gas, right?
But then for the house.
That's recommended, I would say. That's recommended. But the tax office actually cannot trace every people's log, right?
What if, for example, you use a specific like credit card that you use for business and you just pay with that credit card and he always pays in the same credit card and you just show him the end of the month that credit card billing is.
So for the corporation, tax office recommend you to get the corporate credit card issue and use the corporate credit card only for business purpose. Otherwise, if the employee use their personal card, of course, matching documents should be necessary to claim it as a business expense. Okay. Can I be a corporation
In a
and
corporation, anywhere. Sole part.
Yeah,
Corporation
also
at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Like for example, I have my consulting SP company, and I'm required to enter in a bigger project, like a special purpose company or a bigger for limited projects. Then can it be at the same time into companies or?
That will make your accountant a hard work.
Okay.
So for example, you own shares in one company,
Because that's.
but you're running a small cafe in another company, like your own cafe in
Yeah.
another thing. But you own big shares in different company. That's exactly the question actually.
Yeah. With F5 visa holder, I was informed that it is possible.
But with, for example, foreign direct investment, no.
With other visa holder, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult. And again, for the tax reporting purpose, we need to define what's your portion in the joint venture and what's your income in the sole proprietorship, and then combine it with the global income. And
Are
file
you a
it.
good accountant?
Okay, I can receive one or two of your questions.
Okay, it goes, actually, you kind of touched on that subject. How can we make a car deductible? Is it like in the US where you have to lease the vehicle in order to be tax deductible?
If you own a corporation, it's better to have your car under the corporation name.
What about a sole proprietor? Can that be
For a
done?
sole proprietor, if the president owns the car, he can deduct it as the company expense.
Okay.
So you don't have to lease it or rent it. Even owning the car, the related expenses can be deductible.
So,
And of course, writing the journals is preferable.
so what exactly is deductible? The payment,
Insurance, tax, depreciation, fuel, toll fee. Actually, personally, I don't recommend lease too much. I know how much the capital companies charge on lease. And considering all, I think even buying a car will be better.
but the payments are not tax deductible.
Payments are,
Oh, payments are.
lease payment are deductible, but if you calculate it at the end, I think you pay much more than what you should pay.
But if you borrow, like, what about car payments, not the lease payment, is that tax deductible also?
Yeah, that's tax
Okay.
deductible.
So transit would be the same, like subway?
Transportation, business-related transportation is all deductible.
How do you prove that?
Yeah.
Difficult to prove.
Yeah, very
But when we talk about proof,
You need a receipt. Probably.
If you put $50 in one card, you own that credit.
proof is at the time the tax auditor comes, right? If we only simply report to the tax office, we don't need detailed explanation. But at the time of tax audit, it's difficult. But tax auditor, when they come to your office, they are not interested in small expenses. What they are interested is in neglecting your sales, hiding your cash sales.
education.
Because they want performance also. So for small, I travel from home to my office to my home. Is it personal or business related? They are not interested too much on that. Okay, I think someone else had a question.
Yeah, I have two questions. The first one is, can a corporation own shares of another company?
Possible.
And another thing is, if I arrange a shipment of goods from A to B and none of them is Korea, do I have to pay tax on the commission for those goods that I never own in reality?
So, first question, a corporation can be the shareholder. That's how all the Korean conglomerates are functioned. I don't have to tell details, right? And second was, if you ship from one country to the other country, right?
Yes.
Yeah, none of them are in Korea. Regarding your commission income, whether you need to declare in Korea, right? Will you handle this through your Korean company or not?
I will never own the goods. I will only make the arrangement, and the goods will never be owned by me or by my company.
So your handling fee, you're charging the handling fee or commission.
Commission
right?
on the sales, representing or something like that. But might be owned by the bank, the shipment sometimes, or by another person. Do I have to pay taxes for that?
If this is if the work handling work is done by like ABC company registered in Korea, yes, this needs to be reported. If this is this work is mainly handled by your company that's registered in Korea, even though this is outbound transaction, it needs to be reported.
And pay income tax and VAT.
The VAT have no implication here. The VAT has no implication. The income tax is eligible in Korea. But the case will be, what if I don't report it? Then will the tax office come to me or not? And I'm cautious on talking about that. Because in other words, there is small chance that they will find these kind of transaction going on, unless it's handled on your company name and you use the company bank book, then there could be chased.
But there is something called like, if you use the foreign currency, there's no taxes payable or something.
Can you more specify the question?
Something I heard from the previous seminar, we do same thing, sort of, that if it's a foreign currency coming from abroad, through Korea, you don't pay taxes because you actually bring the money into Korea.
If it's a sales amount that I bring in, then I need to pay tax. If it's a pure loan, no tax implication. Regarding if you earn foreign currency and there is fluctuation in the exchange rate, those are treated as expenses if you have foreign currency transaction loss or gains. And some of earning foreign currencies, there are some tax credit, but none of them are totally tax exempt. Okay, last question.
No, I just want to expound upon that question. So you're saying, for example, if I were to buy some goods from America, I have to buy it in dollars, clearly. The fluctuation in the exchange rate is tax deductible, you're saying?
Let's say that I made contract in $100.
Yes.
Right? If the exchange rate fluctuated and then I had to pay more if I convert into Korean won, then I have transaction loss, right? Foreign currency transaction loss between the invoice date and real payment date.
Okay.
Then it could be business deductible.
Okay.
What about income from investments in other businesses? Is that under the title of revenue for income purposes, or?
If you are a shareholder of another business and you are not actively working in the company, that means you will have dividend income, and dividend income is taxable.
Okay.
If you are a sole business owner, does any other income that you make personally unrelated to that business, do you have to pay separate tax for that, or is that just all added together?
Yeah, those are all added together. So, let's say I have my salary income, which I pay taxes. Let's say I have a shop and I have business income. And so I'm owner of a sole proprietorship, and I have some editing work and work as a freelancer. At the year end, next year May, I need to combine all these. And then, apply the salary income tax, personal income tax rate, and then file it again. But, can you see it? But if I only have salary income, as someone explained, the company handles the deduction and withholding and payment, so I don't need to take any action.
That's for corporation, right?
If I have salary income from corporation or individual company, if this is my only income, I don't need to declare again. But if I have other income, like owning a sole proprietorship and some other businesses together, I need to combine it together, and I can be taxed more in a higher rate than original. Sorry, it took me also long to understand this concept. I don't urge you to understand this in 1.5 hours.
Is there a capital gains tax?
Yeah, there is capital gains tax.
Is it, what's the rate on the capital gains tax?
It depends on which kind of capital gain you have. Currently, the listed stock capital gains are not taxed in Korea. If I bought Samsung Electronics shares and sold it in high price, I do not get taxed in capital gain. But I get taxed in transaction tax, security transaction taxes, which is very small. But other property, actually in all the textbook, the capital gain tax is very serious because the Korean government does not want you to speculate in housing. If you own a house and kept it less than 1 year, you can tax almost 50%. So capital gain tax on securities is different, the bond is different, and house is different, and office still is different. It itself is a big subject.
Can you avoid the, oh, sorry.
Sorry. If I like buy a house and then I fix it and make it pretty and then I sell it for more money, I could be taxed like 50% on that money that I make.
If you owned it less than 1 year.
So nobody plays real estate over here.
50% on capital gain. Of course, not on the amount you sell, not on the selling price, but on the capital gain.
Okay.
Can you avoid that if you reinvest back into real estate though?
No. You can get, can you come again?
For example, in the U.S., to avoid capital gains tax on property, you
Buy
can, as long
another
as, yeah, you
substitute,
buy,
right?
with the money, you
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
another house, that's how you know, can you do that in Korea?
That's only possible in farmland, not in housing.
Okay.
The taxes on housing is very high and very strict, and they ask you to own it at least 2 years. At least 2 years. The tax before owning less than 2 years and after 2 years are tremendously different. And before there was even the residency test. So you need to live in the house to get this test. Because they don't want you to speculate.
You could switch the title over to somebody else's name though, to a family member, for example, right?
Then giving tax. Gift tax. Or if someone passed away, then inheritance tax. So simply changing the name, yeah, there is no concept of simply changing the name.
What about having somebody live in that place? Like you rent it to somebody. Is that the same? Because like as a, you know, you have to live in it for like 1 year. Can
Oh,
somebody
but
else
the living test is disappeared. So nowadays, you just can't, the ownership test still exists, but the living test is no longer. But still, investing in real estate seems to be very attractive, and some corporation, even compared to their main business, by investing in some buildings or real estate, had more earnings than their main business. And also investing other shares, buying shares. And regarding the value-added tax, value-added tax, I will not cover it on by my material, but I'll make it simple and make it more applicable to your business. Regarding the export, does the VAT applicable when you export? VAT, there are two rates in VAT. Oh, I thought there's only 10%. Why is Christy saying two types of VAT? One is 10% and one is 0%. And 0% of VAT is different from VAT exempt. Most of the transaction, business to business transaction, and if it's provide of service or provide of commodity, mostly 10% VAT is applicable. If I sell anything through my business, I need to usually charge 10% by issuing tax invoice. Or even if I have credit card sales, that means 10% VAT is already marinated there. Zero % VAT is like export. When I do the transaction with overseas, if I ask my overseas client to issue the tax invoice, they would say, what is this? So there is no VAT implication when I do the export. But that's different when I do the import. When I do the export sale, it's zero VAT. Zero VAT. For the zero VAT is still VAT eligible. So if I do the export business, but I do pay my VATs when I purchase something, then the matching purchase VAT is VAT refundable. Okay, what's the basic concept of VAT? VAT is value-added tax. So the wholesaler sell this bottle of water to the retailer adding 10%. The retailer sell, on top of that adding 10%, selling it to the customer. The customer who paid, all who bore two steps of it, never get refunded. Because the end customer does not file VAT return. VAT return is filed by businesses. So most of the transaction you know of is 10% VAT eligible. And export sales are 0%. And the reason I'm saying 0% is different from VAT exempt is what I'm going to explain right now. If you are 0% eligible, the purchase VAT you paid can be refundable. So I bought a lot of textiles or material or computers in Korea and sold it out. When I bought it, I paid 10% in addition. I can get a refund, even though my sales is no VAT. VAT exempt is different. This is different. This is like selling raw materials, or I would say necessities, like in meat or in water or tissues. Those are VAT exempt. And those sellers, even though they have other equipment bought with additional 10%, they cannot get a refund. One of my clients is meat selling company, which is VAT exempt. They pay me additional 10% for my consulting fee, but they cannot get a refundable. Because VAT exempt sales means you cannot get a refund either. Does it make you easy to understand? Yes. Then, regarding the export business, I told you when my product is shipped to overseas, overseas, I don't pay VAT. But the importing party, does the importer pay VAT on their country?
Yes.
How about the duty?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So with the commodity I imported, let's say it's 100, they pay duty. Let's say the duty is 15. Let's say the duty is 15. And even on top of it, they also pay VAT. So the importer pays duty and VAT. When I export, same thing happen. When I import, same thing happen. My counterparty did not, let's say I imported this from USA. My counterparty did not pay any VAT in USA. When I import, I pay the duty, and on 10% on top of it, I also pay VAT. So the duty will be 15, right? And the VAT will be 11.5. After the FTA, a lot of duties are released. Duty tax are released. If you know the exact HS code is the code, I think you know more. HS code is the code that's imposed to every commodity when it is imported. You can easily do the duty amount check in some of the website.
For the FTA, it's only if the product is made in America, though, right? For example, for America. If it's an American company, but let's say I'm shipping this hat, the hat was made in Vietnam. Is it still eligible for FTA?
A lot of country of origin implication in one product.
For the FTA agreement?
Yeah. Let's say that I'm importing a vehicle, so many parts, and then it goes to the country of origin. Yeah, I heard a seminar regarding the duty, and it was so complicated. And actually, even you have a subcontractor, it becomes much more complicated. So a lot of duties are released. One of my clients is importing a big bearing that goes to the bridge and budgeted the duty 2 years ago. And then later on when he wanted to do the business, the duty was relieved, so could save a lot of money. And duty is not refundable either. The import VAT can be refunded by filing the VAT return, but the duty tax is not refundable. And then VAT and 현금 영수증. 현금 영수증 is a very tricky part for foreigners. 현금 영수증. Yeah, cash card. Cash card. But not nowadays, but like even a few years ago, there are some places that are reluctant to receive cash card, saying that they don't have the registered machine, and making reasons for not releasing cash card. But nowadays, the tax office is pretty strict on that. Almost every business have to register the cash card. So even you go for a small restaurant and ask for the cash card, they release it. But the cash card have have corporation-owned cash card or an individual-owned cash card, and the corporation-owned cash card can be company deductible. Do you have any questions in VAT?
But you would think that most like clothing, like a hat or a shirt, that kind of stuff would be the VAT would be taxed on, correct?
Right.
Just clothing, something simple as that, definitely.
Nowadays, electronic tax invoice is mandatory for corporation. Is anybody aware of it? 2 years before, you can issue this manually. But nowadays, corporation needs to issue this electronically. Electronic tax invoice. So if you plan to open a corporation, you need to study issuing the electronic tax invoice. How many people try to open a corporation?
Does that mean you have to own your own software? Or are you talking?
Issuing the electronic tax invoice.
Isn't it for your accountant? Doesn't your accountant do that?
This is, I would say, pretty similar to doing the internet banking. There are some websites that you can go with to issue the electronic tax invoice, but you need to have such certificate as you do with the internet banking. So if you wish, I can give you the internet website. This is National Tax Service owned website. I don't think they have English version, but you can issue the electronic tax invoice in this website. If you're owning a corporation, it's a must for you to issue electronic tax invoice. If you are sole proprietorship, if your sales volume is over 1 billion, then you need to issue electronic tax invoice. I told you the corporation's bookkeeping and accounting work are much strict than sole proprietorship. So if someone asks me, Christy, what is the main difference in Korean tax law compared to other countries, I would highlight one of them is entertainment expense treatment. You know that in Korea you spend a lot of fun in entertainment expense. It's true. And they say it's essential to do the business. And of course you can spend if you own the company, but there is regulation in being the tax deductible. If you spend, let's say that your sales volume is small and you spend too much fund in entertainment expense, through the tax reconciliation, they make it non-deductible expense. So entertainment expense are deductible up to certain level only. For a small and medium-sized company, it's deductible up to 18 million per year.
That's a lot.
But if you are not small and medium-sized enterprise, that means regular enterprise, which is bigger enterprise. Strangely enough, the allowed amount is much smaller. It's much smaller. That's weird, right? For a general company, it's up to 12 million. plus a small percentage of sales figure. Let's say Samsung Electronics, they can get deduction of 12 million per year and small percentage of sales. Why?
They took advantage of that system.
The government is giving a great benefit to SMEs. Not only this rules, but a lot of rules are flexible in SMEs. A lot of tax favors are regarding to SMEs. Then what is small and medium-sized enterprise? Is it very difficult to meet small and medium-sized enterprise? I would say once your business type is decided, usually the size level is very easy to meet the condition. Yeah. They're saying like less than 100 billion sales figure. So it's easy to match the size level or less than 1,000 employees. So it's easy to meet the volume level, but the type of business needs to be met. Like accounting work, law firm, even though our sales are small, we cannot be an SME. So the business kind needs to be met. But I would say most of the business are in the category. SMEs have a lot of benefit.
Is there any kind of clear list? What kind of industries are acceptable for SME?
Most of them.
Just most?
Yeah,
just,
most.
excluding?
Excluding the professionals or hospitals. Like that. The business type is not meant for SME.
What about outsourced instructors? That kind of business?
Is it secondment? It's dispatchment?
Well, for example, now I'm working as a freelancer, so if I want to open my own office as an instructor.
Well, that's a very interesting question, yeah, because one of my clients, is doing the headhunter business. It couldn't be an SME. But the dispatchment or secondment could be SME.
It can be an SME.
Yeah. The dispatchment or secondment is like my employee, I am sending him after training to the outside company.
Yes.
That's dispatchment, could be an SME. But the headhunting is purely connecting people to the company. They couldn't be the SME. But basically a lot of businesses are categorized as SME. And also for the entertainment expense, if the amount is over 10,000, you are recommended to use the credit card, not cash. Of course, cash with cash card is okay. But I mean, cash and the simple receipts are not okay. And also for the entertainment expense, before in 2008 and 2007, there was a strange rule. If you paid over 500,000 per person, you need the receiving person's ID number. Yeah, because there was a lot of golf entertainment going on, and the government wanted to give some restriction on that. But nowadays there is no more such rule, so there is no obligation to get the receiving party's ID number. Okay. So they ask, a lot of students ask me, Christy, after hearing your lecture, give me what the tax favors, tax exemptions, tax credits only. Why don't you make a lecture only full of tax credits? Regarding the tax credits, there is a lot of tax credits, but most of them are asking you to go out of Seoul, having manufacturer line, or induce a lot of employment. So tax credits looks fancy, but not really applicable for small businesses. But small businesses having the credit card sales, about 3 to 7% of my credit card sales are treated as tax credit when I pay the VAT return, when I file the VAT return. So they don't want you to refuse to your customer when they want to pay credit card. So it always have consequence when they give tax credit. So before I told you that about the business structure of the subsidiary and branch office, so I made one chart. It looks complicated, but everything is in there. The confident numbers. So if we start from the easiest one, we studied the 개인사업자, sole proprietorship. You need the capital. Of course, it's not a registered capital, but you need initial investment of 100 million or more if you want to have a foreign direct investment company. And then if you read the last part, the president, the owner of the company, cannot receive salary. The rest three columns are all corporation. But I guess most of you will be interested in independent corporation, not having the parent company or mother company relationship. So while I talk as mostly in independent company. Independent company initial capital is needed. I told you you can even settle with 1 million won. But if you want to go for a foreign direct investment, you need 100 million or more. Foreign individual can be the investor, in other words, shareholder, and dividend can be paid to the shareholder. And since most of you are Korean resident, the dividend tax rate will be 15.4%. But dividend is not tax deductible. Dividend is paid out after deducting all the taxes from the retained earning. So paying dividend does not reduce the corporate income tax. So paying dividend is not a good idea if you only think about the tax planning. Do you want me to come again in that part? When you prepare your corporate income tax, your sales figure, you will have expenses, right? If you pay as salary, it will be counted as expense, so will reduce your net income. Where you pay the dividend is not treated as the expense, because dividend is to the shareholder passive income.
So you're saying just increase your salary instead of paying a dividend?
If you can, if you can. That will help reduce the corporate income tax. But of course, if the shareholder is not working, then it's difficult to give them salary. In such case, the only way is by paying dividend. And then if you have a mother company, then you might want to have it as a subsidiary or branch office. Subsidiary or branch office. Subsidiary is a corporation and branch office is also a corporation. If you open a subsidiary, You can name it. But people are very confused. Well, Christine, what is subsidiary? What is branch office? I heard your lecture till the end, and then I still don't know what's subsidiary and branch office. This is, as mentioned, only when you want to make relationship with the foreign entity, then this might be your option. Otherwise, independent corporation will be your option. Subsidiary is like a Korean company. You register another totally new company in Korea, only the shareholder is being a foreign company. You give birth to a Korean company. While branch office, it's like a part of foreign company. So I just explained it as like giving birth to another Korean company. You need initial capital. And also, when you want to pay back to the mother company, you need to go through the dividend procedure.
Both of those companies can hire foreigners?
Yeah, both of them can hire foreigner, and there's no limitation doing business in branch office or subsidiary.
Can you explain more about branch office and particularly how would how would a foreigner on a visa status be entitled to work in that situation?
The country manager of the branch office can usually receive D7 visa. And branch office, the initial capital is not needed, but still can be an FDI company. And transaction with the parent company is less onerous, is easier. So I tried to explain it as subsidiary giving birth. Again, while branch office is like my leg and hand. So it's easy for the cash flow. It's easy for the cash flow. Again, the operating fund can come and out easily in branch office. And even for the repatriation, it's easier. Repatriation is easier. Paying back to the headquarters is easier, while subsidiary needs to pay dividend tax.
So what's the benefit of
Yeah,
subsidiary?
you're limited. The branch office, you're limited to what you can do.
Yeah, what are those limitations?
Yeah, you're limited to what kind of a job you can do as a branch office officer, for example. You work as an officer, but you cannot, for example, offer services or something. You can only export, import, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Actually, in the tax ruling, and as far as I know, the business that you can do is not much limited, even having a branch office. Amazingly huge company is still as a branch office in Korea. And
like Starbucks?
I don't know about the Starbucks, but if I can see their registration number, like 3-digit, 2-digit, 5-digit is the registration number. Branch office is with 84. And in Siemens' case, a German home equipment company, they have both. They have subsidiary and branch office.
What about the D9 trading visa? How would that fall on? You said it can only fall under independent corporation, wouldn't be able to.
I wish I had full knowledge in visa. I have very limited knowledge.
Okay. But if it's an existing trading company already in South Africa, how exactly would I?
I cannot answer for a visa matter.
Okay.
It's not that I'm not willing to, but I don't know that much.
You said the branch office can hire foreigners? Is there
The
any?
branch office
So
can
it
hire
means there's
foreigners.
also no limitation to hire Koreans, right? Like it's
Yeah, hiring Korean, of course, no restriction. But the only difference that one of the main differences, if I'm the president of branch office, I get the title of country manager. While if I'm the head of of the subsidiary, I get the title of representative director. People treat two of them differently. Branch office manager as puppet, while representative director is really treated as representative director. And getting local loan, for instance, if you visit the bank and show your company credit, I think subsidiary is easier. Because branch office looks small and only part of the headquarters. But the subsidiary is treated differently. It's like having a full entity in Korea.
As a branch manager or a representative, do you have to be on the payroll of the parent company?
No, you can receive payroll in Korean entity.
So I can be my own corporation owner here in Korea as a branch office or a subsidiary.
As a foreigner.
Yeah.
It's not your company though, it's the other company's company in Korea. You're just working for the company.
If it's a
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Am I on the payroll of my parent company?
for a branch office, that's great.
Yeah, you should be. So you can pay for it.
So I'm thinking of in the offshoring business. I'm just thinking, is it better to make my own Korean company, or rather put it up as a branch office?
It's free decision. You can be on Korean payroll, but you don't have to be on Korean payroll.
Okay.
Some of the lot of representative directors are working for free. No, they're not working for free. They're receiving the salary in parent company. So they are not in the Korean payroll. And I need to report that they are not receiving salary to the insurance corporation because they are keen on collecting insurances.
Is there a minimum size of the business abroad when you establish your branch office or subsidiary in Korea? I mean, it must be a big business abroad, or can be also, is there a size or a limit? Or
I had the same question in my previous class, and the other students said, you need at least 3-year history. But the other students said that I have 3 months history and got the staff incorporated. So I don't think so the checking party can be the court registry, right? Since if the documents are perfect, our documents are in good shape, I don't think the history itself is.
There's no like minimum turnover. Or
I think it depends more on the country.
Could be.
Parent companies from, so if it's from like African country, probably no way you can open anyway. It's coming, same thing. I think the backing of the country itself.
Could be, but I never saw such definite guideline, so I cannot say about that. Yeah, the branch office, I told you that there is no tax when you repatriate to the home country, but there are few exceptions, naming branch tax. France or Australia, if your headquarters is in France or Australia, before you pay from the Korean branch office to the headquarters, there is branch tax. So in some exception, branch office need to pay tax when they plan to repatriate to the headquarters. And apart from corporation or sole proprietorship, there is another concept called representative office, which is named liaison office. Liaison office does not do any business work in Korea. They are here purely in Korea for auxiliary and preparatory work. So if I open the liaison office, I cannot do the contract. I cannot do the business performance. I only can do the market research, spending. But the beautiful part about the liaison office is they do not pay any VAT. They do not need to file corporate income tax return. So representative office or liaison office is only existing for their future business.
Is there a limitation on how long that can?
The representative office, no, there is no limitation. So liaison office is just like similar to non-profit organization.
So, 대표, in Korean, representative.
Director, representative director is 대표이사.
What about country manager? You said 대표이사 is.
The country manager is the head of the branch office.
Right, right. What is it in Korean?
지사장?
Yeah, 지사장.
But you see the 대표, that sounds better. That title sounds better.
Yeah,
to Korean people.
대표이사.
Because there's so many titles in Korea, it just confuses me. I don't know what title I should try to. What I should put on my name card because I know how important that is.
회장, 사장.
Yeah, 사장 is 사장 means owner.
But I've heard that if you deal with people like that, if you have sajang, even though you say you're the CEO or head, it might not look as good if you just say you're the director because then they're like, oh, this is a small company. That's why he's the head of a small company. Versus saying you're a director and you're working at a big company. Do you see what I'm saying?
It depends on who you talk to, I guess.
We call it inflation of titles.
No, really. Do you see what I'm saying though? Like, it'd be better to be director of Samsung than
If your company is
be,
small,
yeah, the
and
owner
you
of.
want to be called 사장.
Yeah.
Oh, this company is quite small, but why is it 사장?
Yes.
So it means, well, you just exaggerate your title,
Mhm.
even though you own a small company. But if you are called a director, the counterpart doesn't know how big your company is. Oh, he's director, and above him, there are more hierarchy. So your company must
Be
be quite
pretty big.
big.
Yeah.
So we have this kind of first image. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So somebody just wants to be called 본부장, 실장, so this whole bunch of different titles. That's funny, but that sounds ridiculous, I know, but that happens in Korean business culture.
You can make 2 sets of cards depending on.
Actually, that's exactly what I'm thinking about doing. I really was thinking
So
about
if you
doing
react
that.
bad, you just say, oh, it's the wrong one.
Give me that back. I've just promoted myself.